Okay, thank you. We're out of our Board of Health executive session, and there's no action item based on that discussion, but we did have one item. There was a request from the Washington State Association of Counties, whether or not a county official, an appropriate county official, I think we're proposing it be Dr. Yu or Shelley Slaughter, be willing to sign a supporting declaration of an amicus brief that's being prepared by the State Association of Counties related to a lawsuit, and I believe the board concurs, but I'll confirm with my seatmates that we authorize that. Do we need to?
No, just a concurrence of the board. I believe Dr. Yu or Shelley can probably sign this declaration, and again, this is related to the potential lawsuit against the state related to releasing inmates and the community, and the concern outlined in this amicus brief is that perhaps of the health risk they might present to the community.
And it just does talk about public health risk. I've got other concerns about safety risk, but that's it.
Well, I think some of those safety risks are, I just wonder if we shouldn't let the public know the gist of what we're concurring on.
Yeah, and again, this is a follow-up to Commissioner Messer's ask that yesterday you received a request from the Washington State Association of Counties. It is specifically related to health officers as well as health administrators to consider signing a declaration in support of, in relation to this lawsuit, where this declaration, what outlined is outlining the concern from the health point of view of releasing inmates from correction facilities.
I mean, the gist I got from reading it is that the lawsuit would propose releasing about almost 12,000 folks. The governor has already released about 970, I believe, and is dealing with this in a kind of a measured, phased approach. I personally am comfortable with the governor's approach. I'm not much less comfortable with these litigants' approach, and so the Board of Health would simply, or not even the Board of Health, but our health official would be weighing in from what the public health components of the concern might look like.
And this, I'm sorry, and this is the State Association of Health Officers, isn't it?
The Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials, which is an affiliate of WASAC, Washington Association of Counties, of which we are all members of.
So it's not just a Thurston County band, it's statewide. Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
And in essence, we're supporting the governor on his resistance to this particular action of releasing 12,000 or so inmates, right?
The governor spoke,
Major approach.
Yes.
the governor spoke on this during his Q&A yesterday, and I think his answer was well thought out and the right approach.
Well, per the newspaper this morning, the Olympian, he can release up to 950, but I think he's only done a few hundred short of that yet. But I don't know how far behind the report was.
Yeah.
Maybe we're getting ready to wind down the Board of Health, are we?
Yep.
Are we gonna comment that there will be, maybe Shelley can comment, there's gonna be new information?
Shelley's going to follow up with the actual normal update, walking through the new report and
then that'll be on the website
yes.
for the public, okay.
So close Board of Health.
Yep, and so I assume I have concurrence from the board on this particular amicus brief. So
Yes.
So thank you, sir. Thank you, sirs.
And for those on the phone, yes, it's unanimous?
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimous,
Thank
okay.
you. So then if for the public's benefit, can you just give us a brief update of the COVID-19 based on the conversation that we just had?
Sure, yes. Good morning again, Commissioners. So I will just provide the situation update that I've been sharing with you each week. As of the latest report that I have from Washington State, we have a total of 10,538 positive cases of COVID-19, and unfortunately 516 deaths. In Thurston County, today we are at 81 cases and have had 1 death thus far. Also just want to share a little bit about testing. Statewide, there's been 87,784 tests. with 8.5% positive. But here in Thurston County, we've had 2,271 tests and 2.6% positive. So out of every 100, 2.6 show positive. And so we keep an eye on that rate to inform us about the transmission of COVID in our community. However, again, that is only for those that are symptomatic and have been tested and met the criteria for testing. We do not have adequate testing to meet the demand statewide yet, but that is increasing. So we hope to continue to see that. We also have some tests that we have received at our local public health department from Washington State Department of Health that we can deploy in the event that we have an outbreak in a congregate care setting, such as a long-term care facility, a jail or shelter, and to date, we have 0 in Thurston County. Also, looking at COVID-like illness hospitalizations and ED visits, I have reported to you on that each week, and that continues to go down, so that is good news. We also have a weekly call with each of our local hospitals, and they report that they currently have adequate beds in their medical surgical unit as well as their ICU and ventilators. Director Harden will provide an update on PPE and other things in a moment. I also just want to share in response to your requests and the requests from the public regarding data. We are updating information that we have available on our website. We will be including a new weekly report, and that includes information about the testing I just shared with you, our confirmed cases of COVID-19 in our community, the number of deaths, the number hospitalized, and the number recovered or recovering. And just a note about that, that's defined by public health as when we release them from isolation. It's not yet known what the long-term effects of people who have had COVID-19 and how their health will fare long-term. So we also include we also will be including a map of diagnosed confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Thurston County by zip code. That will be available on our website. And also just to note for the public, those are for Thurston County residents. So those whose permanent address or address of record is in Thurston County, recognizing that many people live and work in other communities and they may access care here or they may work and live elsewhere. So this just captures those that are reported to us that are Thurston County residents. There's also a link on our website to Washington State Department of Health that also continues to update their data sources each day, and there's more information available there as well. We also track that information. Any questions?
A question about the, I think it was last week, there was a report on the drive-through testing. Can you just, is that something that's expanding? Is it working? Remind people who that's for, because people hear about it and they don't really know what it's about.
Yes, so drive-through testing, also known as community-based testing sites, are a way in which people can be tested without having to go to their healthcare provider. Locally, Providence St. Peter's Hospital is operating a drive-through community-based testing site in Hawks Prairie, and that is available for people who are symptomatic. There's no charge for the test, and they also prioritize essential workers now. So the hours and the hours and the criteria, there's a link on our website that people can visit. There's also a community-based testing site operated by Indigo Healthcare on, I believe, the west side of Olympia. And I don't have the details of that, but all of that information is available, and people are encouraged to call ahead before they go visit, just to verify the hours and that they meet the criteria.
So the drive-through testing and the community-based testing sites, is it anonymous, or what information does someone have to provide?
When they go there, they do provide their the details of their information, but again, there's no charge or.
Right, but if I drive up, do I have to give my identification? What do I have to tell them about who I am if I'm getting tested?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize about your question. I do not know actually what kind of identification you're required, but that information is available if you visit the website and call ahead to find that out.
Okay.
But yes, they do collect your name, your date of birth, those kinds of things, because that's important, and the laboratory then reports that to public health.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner?
Because this is pertinent to the virus issue, and we've got our Director of Public Health here, I know one of the issues that we're gonna be talking about, I don't know if it's number 2, back on the next page under Commissioner items or not, because we're talking about a letter to the governor from the cities and the county. I know that the Olympia Master Builders has asked jurisdictions to ask the governor if he would reconsider his restrictions on building in our community. And I know several counties have written that letter to the governor, and Mason County is one of them, and Snohomish County is one of them, and I think Clark County, but I'm not sure of that. I would like to hear, I would like to see the governor open up building, because we're doing what's called crucial building, and that's low income and schools and that type of thing. I really don't see a difference between building, for an example, an office building or a house where people are outside and able to maintain social distancing. I'd like to see this board write a letter asking the governor to let that out. But so I need to have some input maybe from.
Yeah, that's exactly the item later on your agenda.
But because Shelley is the department director, I think she ought to be involved and at least have her input.
There you go.
So that's why I'm kind of jumping out of sequence here.
That's fine. Do you have any input on that?
I don't right now, but I will be here for the remainder of the board meeting, so when you get to that item, if you have a question for me, I'm happy to weigh in at that time.
Okay,
Thank you.
that answers that.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that for Shelley?
On this COVID-19, no, just thank you for, I think you and your team are kicking butt, and I really appreciate your hard work.
Thank
Can't
you.
believe the number of the number of investigative hours, they only have 4 investigators. That's incredible work. You're talking about 80 people, and you at least double that. How many people were contacted? 200 and some odd?
Yes, nearly 300. We
Yeah.
also have volunteers from our Medical Reserve Corps, as well
Okay.
as other staff that are helping to support the investigation team.
That's a tremendous amount of hours. Yeah, good job, thank you.
And thank you very much for the new information you'll be posting on the website. Public will have
Yeah.
available to them.
Great, thank you.
All right,
Thank you very
thank
much.
Now we're moving on to homeless strategies with Katie Marino.
Good morning,
I'm sorry,
Commissioner.
hang on, Katie. Did you have something, Kurt?
Well, I was gonna just do a quick update on donations for PPE.
Let's do that then, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Keely.
No, that's okay. Sir, Kurt Harden, Director of Emergency Service, again, real quick. So at our ECC, which has been activated since March 3rd in support of public health, one of the things that we've been very successful is the donations of PPE by the public. There's 4 donation sites that have been published out. The ECC location at 9521 Tilley Road, Lacey Fire District 3, Olympia Fire Department, and Tumwater Fire Department. Also, cloth masks. People have been asking what can we do and how can we contribute cloth masks. Those are accepted at those 4 locations as well. There's been a lot of discussion in the media about PPE for healthcare professionals, first responders, et cetera. I'm happy to report that we will get our second shipment of PPE from the state in less than 7 days. We got one Friday night. We're getting one today. Appreciate Central Facilities and their staff because they've been rolling through trucks and coming in and picking the stuff. We're now picking it up from the state warehouse and bringing it directly over. It's about a 20-minute drive. It's much smoother than them
That
delivering.
is JBLM,
What's that?
JBLM, right, at the
No,
base?
no, it's at,
Where
it's
is
actually in Tumwater. It's at the DES warehouse in
Okay.
Tumwater.
Wow, down by New Market.
Yep,
Good,
yep, so we're doing that.
very good.
And then, and we're getting stuff, the priorities now are long-term care facilities for masks, for surgical masks, and we're getting those out to the long-term care facilities through staff. But we appreciate the county staff stepping up and moving a lot of PPE. We'll have 7 pallets come in today. 6 pallets came in Friday night.
Commissioner?
And you had a Chinese community bring
Yes.
some masks. Maybe you could make mention of that organization that took it on themselves to bring those masks the other day.
I don't have the name of the organization in front of me, but it was, I don't know if you had, Shelley, I know Megan.
I'll find it.
Okay, if you can real quick, but 2,000 masks were donated last Friday. They came up, it was very nice. A very good gesture and also, so people know, those donated masks and PPE that are coming in, if they meet NIOSH and CDC standards, we are putting them right back out to healthcare facilities and or first responders.
You have something to add before Romero finds it?
Yes, I was just gonna add, I believe Megan Porter, our PIO, is on the phone and she had some COVID-related updates that she wanted to share and that I think that might be one of them.
Okay. And I don't know if Kelly's watching or not, but Kelly made a mask. She made tons of these and donated them as
I
well,
do have that information.
but made me one as well. I think it was very, very kind of her to do that, of course.
I just need to know what fabric she used so it doesn't fog my glasses.
Yeah, it doesn't fog my glasses, which is nice.
I got that information.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yes, last Friday, Mr. Herman Shaw, excuse me, my butchering the last name, met with Commissioner Edwards at the EOC, where they donated 2,000 masks. He was representing the Chinese American Civic Action Alliance of
There you
Thurston
go,
County.
that's what I was looking for.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And, but
Go ahead, finish up.
I was gonna say, the
Megan.
last thing I was gonna say is Director Slaughter and I represent a large number of people who are working over at Public Health, at ECC, at a lot of places. We're the faces, but all the hard work is, all the heavy lifting is being done by all the staff members out there who are coming to work and showing up and doing all those things out there. So I want to make sure we get a plug in for all the hard work that's being done.
Thank you.
They're doing an incredible job.
They are.
And as is the public in abiding by the stay home, stay healthy order. I'm very encouraged and hopeful about the data that we're seeing that these measures are working. So thank you to everybody.
Now we have Megan Porter on the line. She gonna give us information?
I believe so.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Oh, good morning. Go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I understand there were concerns last week that we weren't putting out positive messaging. So I just wanted to give you and the other leaders in the county and the public a quick rundown of how they can get messaging about COVID, with the caveat that we can't control what the media puts out. We can only control what we put out. So through social media, this includes the Public Health, Thurston County and Emergency Management Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram platforms. All of our posts are informational, accurate, and provide a hopeful perspective on the situation. They also provide calls to action that help prevent community spread. We respond to questions and dispel rumors on those outlets as well. Just on Facebook alone, among those 3 platforms, we have more than 23,000 followers. So we're getting the information out. We invite all of our county offices and departments to share this information, and we are very grateful to the other local agencies who are regularly sharing what we put out there. The Public Health website, which is where the Thurston County community can go for accurate, timely information. We regularly update it and add FAQs to help answer these common questions. Since March, we've seen close to 150,000 unique visitors to that webpage and more than 400,000 page views. That's a lot of people going there. We also post daily updates to our homepage. The letters to the community that have gone out. So Dr. Yu has written 3 letters to the community. The 4th one is going to go out today. And then the board, along with the mayors of Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, and Yelm, wrote a letter to the community. All of those are very well received. People really appreciate those, so thank you for doing that. We recently released PSAs, or public service announcements, to the local radio stations. They're now playing them, and we're posting them on our social media that has messages around how to still live life while staying home and how people can protect themselves and their family. Those were recorded by Commissioner Hutchings, Mayor Selby, Mayor Ryder, Mayor Komet, and Mayor Foster. So thank you for recording those. I also send a daily message to the Joint Information System, which is made up of more than 85 local communicators, first responders, emergency managers, and agency leaders. Those messages include a case count and then what's new for them to help share with the public. So that includes the FAQs, letters to the communities, etc. And then lastly, we have a really great relationship with Thurston Talk. I want to give them a little shout out today. They're being very, very helpful in spreading the messages that we're sharing. They share all of our letters to the community. And then last week, they ran a 7-day series for us highlighting Public Health Week, because last week was National Public Health Week. And each of those articles that they ran had an aspect of how public health is continuing with providing the community services during the COVID outbreak. So I would love if you have additional ideas on how to share these positive messages. I'm happy to get that out. So just let me know. And then I also wanted to point out that most of our FAQs and all of the letters to the community are translated to Spanish and located on the website.
Oh, good, very good. Any questions for Megan? Any questions for Megan?
No.
Megan, thank you very much for all you're doing. You answered all my questions.
Thank you.
All right, go back to work.
Thanks, I'll do.
Okay. Now moving on, Keely, if you're still there, and I'm sure you are. I see your name up on the screen. Homeless strategies update.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I am glad to report that the homeless crisis response system is holding steady. We had the additional shelter at Sacred Heart Church in Lacey open up this Monday to serve up to 10 women. They're also providing hygiene services, showers, meals, and bathrooms and hand washing stations at Sacred Heart during the day, Monday through Friday, I believe, 10 to 2 p.m. Intercity Transit has worked with Ariel Benson and Kim Condrat of Sacred Heart to ensure that there is a community van that can drive through Olympia on a rotation to pick people up to make sure that they can get to Sacred Heart during the hygiene days. 2828 Martin Way is in its second week of operation. From what I hear, it's going quite well. Outreach workers are continuing to go out into on heavy rotation into the encampments. City of Olympia has also hired 2 new outreach workers who are able to utilize city resources to ensure that outreach, any kind of survival gear is getting to individuals out in those encampments. We're continuing to meet with the City of Olympia key homeless response staff on the daily. We have a phone call with them at 3 p.m. to make sure we're still in lockstep with each other. The Hazardous Weather Task Force is meeting on a weekly basis so we can keep up to date with providers and then also get updates from other jurisdictions. Primarily that's Lacey and Olympia. And then on a weekly basis, also meeting with all of the outreach workers to ensure that we are well coordinated. We also are continuing to work on the quarantine and isolation bed COVID response. We are getting very close to everything being squared away. However, where we need to stand up, put someone up in a quarantine and isolation bed, we have confidence that that would be fine if that were to happen today. And then adding to our team here at ECC to ensure that we have all our bases covered with regards to homeless response. Ariel Benson has been identified as our quarantine and isolation coordinator, and she'll be taking that role on for the duration of COVID response. Carrie Hennon, treatment sales tax program manager, has been working very closely with me and the quarantine and isolation team. And then today we are adding Katie Strozik, the opioid response coordinator at Public Health, will be joining me to ensure that specialized populations are get the attention that they need during this time. And that's about it.
Any questions for Keely?
No, sir.
Any questions?
Keely, this is Ty. I learned last week that the homeless coordinator, your counterpart for City of Olympia, is moved along and no longer there, and I was wondering, who's your counterpart now? I mean, how is Olympia managing that?
I'm working very closely with Carrie Retlin, who was hired, if you remember, as the Home Fund Program Manager and has become the de facto homeless coordinator. So I'm working with Carrie Retlin and Keith Staley. They have a gentleman named Brandon Alt who's providing support to the mitigation site in Plum Street Village, as well as Ty Gundell and Robert Bruce, 2 new hires that are supporting those efforts as well. But I have offered as much as of my time as they need to help support their efforts down in Olympia.
I assume they're gonna hire someone to replace Colin and down the road, or right away?
I am not aware of them posting a position for the homeless coordinator. I don't know if that position will be filled.
Okay, thanks.
And just for public consumption, Keely, the April Regional Housing Council has been canceled, the meeting.
Correct.
Okay, and we'll find out what we're gonna do in May then. Romero.
Yeah, later on your agenda, you have an item related to the Salvation Army.
Uh-huh.
And that's in response to, you may recall the letter that you sent to the Salvation Army related to open up their facilities for additional shelter. Since we have Keely, Shelby, and Tom in here, if you don't mind bringing this item up for conversation.
Did you all hear that?
Yep.
So who's gonna take the lead on that? Tom, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Tom
morning.
Webster with Public Health and Social Services. So as Ramiro said, a couple weeks ago, we had this discussion regarding the Salvation Army shelter. Early on in this process, we'd reached out to the Salvation Army to see if we could utilize their full shelter space to assist with COVID response. At that time, their initial response was that they intended to end their cold weather shelter, which expires April 30th, our current contract, but not to continue sheltering. After some outreach from your letter, also the City of Olympia, Salvation Army had a call with the City of Olympia about 2 weeks ago, I believe, and at that point did indicate that they would be willing to open up their shelter, but not for quarantine and isolation purposes. They would be willing to shelter high-risk individuals. They submitted a proposed budget for a 3-month budget to open up the shelter for a 24-hour day operation. That budget came in at a little over $500,000 for a 3-month budget. I then subsequently had a conversation with Susan Tiffany of the Seattle Salvation Army. She let me know that was their kind of maximum budget to utilize all available space within the shelter, but they were open to conversations with us to explore what we needed and what would be useful. So we're at that point, $500,000 in talking with Shelley. We do not have that funding available through our Commerce Grant. Most of our Commerce Grant has been contracted out, and we are reserving the remaining amount for quarantine and isolation beds. So looking for kind of next steps, the Salvation Army does feel a need. They are currently housing approximately 30 individuals a night as part of the cold weather shelter. That will end on April 30th. So there will be a need, a loss of those shelter beds in May if something is not continued. So looking for guidance on how to proceed and to identify potential funding sources if it's the board's direction to find a way to proceed with Salvation Army. So Ramiro, is there additional context I can provide?
Following up on Tom's statement, the Salvation Army provided a budget of 3 months, $500,000 to open up additional shelter. Just to give you a perspective, we have negotiated with local hotels, and that is part of our strategy, just to make sure that we'll have enough beds in case of quarantine and isolation surge. And we're in the process of negotiating those contracts. But just to give you a perspective on that, one of the hotels, which we could probably rent 120 rooms for 3 months, just the same as the Salvation Army, It's just about $350,000. So there's a little bit discrepancy on that cost. But as Tom mentioned, we have 30 individuals that they're currently using the shelter of the Salvation Army. And I think we need to address that aspect, because the last thing perhaps we want to see is those 30 individuals to become unsheltered and perhaps be exposed to this virus. My suggestion to you, for your consideration, is to direct Tom and the staff to go back and start negotiating something with the Salvation Army and the City of Olympia and the other cities as to how we can support the 30 individuals that are currently housed at the Salvation Army, and hopefully come back to you with a plan as well as with the financial aspect of that plan.
Okay. Question, go ahead, Todd.
Okay, so I don't know the normal budgets of homeless shelters. Is this off the map in
That's
terms
where I was
of
going, yeah.
like what, I mean, I'm looking at Shelley because she's in the room, but I guess I'm also looking at the virtual Tom. I mean, is that just not reasonable? Because the original letter from Mayor Selby was just let us use it, we'll run it. I mean, and it sounds like this is to have the Salvation Army run it the way they used to run it. Are there other options for the city running it or the county running it or whatever? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I want to get more shelter space, just because this price tag is sticker shock doesn't mean that I want to give up on having all those potential units available for the community at a reasonable price.
This is my reaction,
Yeah.
and perhaps answering your question, yes, for me it was a sticker shock. For 3 months, $500,000, and that is why I give you the perspective of the hotels that we're negotiating, just to give you a price reference. But I do believe there is an opportunity to have a conversation with the Salvation Army and perhaps with the City of Olympia, because the need is there. And I don't believe that, at least from my point of view, we cannot walk away from that need. If there's anything that we can do, is what I'm asking the board to provide and bring direction to staff and bringing back a plan, whether it's a combination of the Salvation Army running the shelter, or whether we run it, or whatever combination. But I think it's an opportunity for staff to reach out to them and start coming up with that plan for your consideration.
Has the city reacted to this? Does anybody have input as to how Olympia reacted to this feedback from Salvation Army?
Yeah, so in our discussions with Keith Staley, the number was a shock to him as well. For reference, we're paying Interfaith Works approximately $60,000 to $70,000 a month for the Martin Way shelter. I think last year Salvation Army submitted a budget of $1 million to operate the shelter on a year-round basis. So kind of $1 million for the whole year. So less than $100,000 per month to operate the shelter. So we're currently paying our other shelters in the $60,000 to $70,000 per month range. The beds fluctuate a little bit. It's not a perfect one-to-one match, but it gives you a good perspective on what we've been paying for shelter in the past. City of Olympia's perspective at this point was basically to pass it over the county. Keith Staley indicated the city would be willing to, he didn't make a formal commitment, but that they could, contribute some amount of money in the $50,000 range was what he suggested, but I don't want to kind of put that out as an official offer. But basically was turning it over the county for our response.
Tom, if I can, I just want to make sure that's on the $60,000 per month is a 24/7 shelter. Most shelters or many shelters operate at about $20,000 to $25,000 a month if it's just for overnight. So that higher price is to ensure that services are offered 24/7.
And we have been paying the Salvation Army approximately $25,000 a month to operate their cold weather shelter. That's on a monthly basis. They've been billing us about $25,000 a month for their cold weather shelter.
Yeah, I was choking on that price tag too, and is it Captain Stearns or Major? I don't want to promote him or demote him. that runs the Salvation Army?
Captain Mark,
I can remember
What is
the
it?
rank.
Captain.
Captain, okay, to Captain Stearns, when I saw that almost $530,000, I didn't know what the standard was, or if it was right in the market, or below market, or right at. And so, and I'm glad you asked this question about what Olympia is willing to contribute as well, and what other options there are. Commissioner Edwards?
Where's that money coming from? And it sounds like we don't have this figured out yet, especially with the city of Olympia.
Maybe if the board agrees, provide direction to staff to come up with a plan, a financial component, and perhaps give you some options as to where the money will come from. Certainly, it will not be general fund.
No. And I'm looking at their options 1, 2, and 3. 3 is just no additional funding, but options 1 and 2, it also, they wouldn't accept anybody that's COVID positive or under investigation for. And is that the same policy as other shelter areas?
Our
Shelley?
normal shelters are screening for COVID-19, but the isolation and quarantine sites that we are proposing to utilize for anyone in a shelter who may need it, or anyone without other options for housing, can access the isolation and quarantine site utilizing the Department of Commerce grant we received specifically for that
Okay.
purpose, which is why Keely and Tom stated that funding would not be appropriate in this case, because that is intended to support those who either have confirmed or potential COVID-19.
Okay, and I understand them wanting to protect their facility from a spread of a disease inside their facility. Yeah, Ty?
So, Tom, I gotta dig deeper into this. I mean, it says in this sheet, Salvation Army submitted a proposed budget of $527,000. Keely's saying an overnight shelter only is $20,000 to $25,000 a month. That's 5 times more than what that would be to run 24/7. This budget, does it have a breakdown? I mean, what is driving this 5 times more cost? Did their budget have a breakdown of how they built it?
It did have a breakdown. I think a couple things. One is because they were in my discussions with Salvation Army and Susan, she said that was a maximum budget of using all available space. And the way the building is structured, they would need additional staff to monitor the different parts of the building. So there was an additional staff cost. They also added money for security. There's also a contingency in there. And then a portion of the funding is also kind of going to Seattle. So they did have a breakdown by cost, and I'm happy to share that with you if you'd like to see it.
All right, well, I'm not interested in Seattle.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Seattle word got me right there. What's going on?
That's where their headquarters are.
I know, but I don't wanna be funny.
Especially, I took it as an
Seattle has
administrative-
mishandled this thing so bad, it's a dark hole as far as I'm concerned. So I don't want any money going to Seattle.
Do you have anything else?
Well, no, I just wanted to know if we really knew a deeper budget breakdown. Sounds like kind of, but not really.
Okay.
Well, I guess as a general rule, I'm supportive of the Salvation Army concept of holding individuals accountable somewhat for their situation and trying to better their situation. Is that going to continue? Should we develop this relationship with them?
Commissioner Edwards, this is Keely. Actually, for the last several years, because they've been only they've been operating as a low barrier shelter. They have their former sheltering program kind of went to the wayside when they went to cold weather sheltering.
Well, if that's the case, I'm not willing to support these people to live their deviant lifestyle and do drugs and stay drunk, if that's what they intend to do. So if that's what a low barrier is, I'm not gonna be in favor of that. So I don't know where my seatmates are.
Keely, do you want to define low barrier?
Absolutely. Every low barrier shelter in our system has a code of conduct. Every low barrier shelter in our system has a no alcohol or drug use policy, and there are consequences if someone were to use. What a low barrier shelter means is that people can access without having an ID, that people can access sheltering without being discriminated against because they have a criminal record unless it's a sex offense, and that people will not be discriminated against because they have a substance use issue. They just are not allowed to use on site.
Okay.
But I guess my follow-up to that, Keely, would be, are there any requirements that these individuals obtain through government assistance, treatment of any kind for either mental health issues or for drug-related issues?
No, there is no requirement. As treatment, folks that work in treatment for both mental health and substance use, but particularly substance use, there has to be a willingness on the side of the person to, you can't force somebody into treatment is the bottom line. And so, because it just won't work. However, there are plenty of case managers, outreach workers, giving referrals constantly to all sorts of treatment programs within our system. So it's available, they're being referred, and many people are seeking treatment right now.
Thank you.
I would like Hutch to maybe raise this with the mayor of Olympia on the Friday meeting, because, I mean, she was driving the bus on this issue, and we kind of jumped on board because we're trying to support that request. I'd like to know what the mayor thinks about the Salvation Army's response and what options we have. Her proposal was not that necessarily that we write a big, overinflated check to the Salvation Army to run the shelter, but that this was a community resource that we could creatively find a way to put into action. And I still want to do that. It makes no sense to not find a path forward on this.
And sorry, Commissioner, to answer one of your earlier questions, as part of that discussion with Salvation Army, they indicated that they would not be willing to have someone else operate that shelter, that if it was going to open up, it would only be Salvation Army who would operate that shelter. And so they were not going to allow the city of Olympia or the county or another provider to operate that shelter.
Okay, thanks.
About that.
My suggestion, recommendation for you to consider, commissioners, is to direct the staff to come up with a plan.
Yep. It's fine with me. Yeah, can they hear you? Yeah, come up with a plan, and then come back to the commission with it.
That was a question for the board.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that. You like that?
Yeah, I like it.
Solve the problem, come back.
Yeah.
Come back with a plan.
Bring us back a solution.
Thank you. All right, anything else from you, Tom or Keely?
Not at this time, thank you.
Keely?
No, not at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
No.
both.
Thank you both for your time.
Thank you, guys.
With that, it is 10:41. We're gonna take a 5-minute break because staff has been at this for over an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, and they need a break. So we'll be back at 10:46. 10:46, thank you.
I did extend this meeting until 12.
All right, we're on? Okay, good. Welcome back. Still April 14th, and we're continuing on with the agenda setting and work session. And now we're going to review the BoCC draft agenda. All April BoCC meetings have been canceled. So for the week of April 21, if you will do today's later. April 21, and we'll go through, the only thing we have right now is the consent items A and B. You want to talk about 3A?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. You may have additional items next week for you to consider, and those are related to the treasurer has submitted a couple of some tax title property surplus. As soon as I get a more round information related to that, I will bring those to your attention. You have two items for next week to consider. One is to consider approving an agreement between Thurston County, the Thurston County Deputy Sheriff's Association Administrative Support. Staff has been negotiating a 3-year contract. Since the negotiations continue on, both parties have agreed to enter into 1-year agreement that will be through December 31st, 2020. That's for just to take us through this year. And the main element of this agreement is they have agreed to the already included the 2.4% cost of living increase. And that is the only item for your consideration. Any questions?
Bless you. All right, any questions? Go ahead, Gary.
Is this this adjustment going from 3 to 1, is this in direct relationship to the virus?
No, it's just because some of the items the association has brought has not got to the point of negotiating a 3-year contract. But at least they agree on the cost of living increase, which is 2.4% for this year. So it's not necessarily related to the emergency.
Any questions?
So it's more like kicking some difficult items down the road for further negotiation?
In a way.
Okay,
To get more time to negotiate the rest of the agreement.
I got you.
And maybe deal with reality as time goes on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, imagine that Maria is up to speed on what the governor's new directives have been regarding represented employees and what they can and can't do, or what the cities or governments or employers can do and not do.
Are you speaking about the order he issued yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, we're looking into that, and we're gonna be providing direction to county staff, hopefully by Thursday.
Good, okay, thank you.
We're tracking now.
Thank you. Was that just yesterday you issued that? It seems like a week ago.
No, yesterday issued a letter particularly related to employees there, 65 and older.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was other parameters in there
Yes.
for others, okay. Well, I know we're tracking. And then there's the vouchers.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that.
And for next week, I will add the actually amount the commission was requesting on the vouchers.
Good, thank you. Anything else on the 21st agenda? No? Okay. Any proclamations or awards? Doesn't seem to be.
Nothing at this point, Commissioner.
Good, we'll move on. Advisory boards, commissions?
Nothing.
Nothing.
New.
Nothing. CIO check-in, let's turn to, we already had Megan weigh in, so let's turn to Brian.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer for the board. We heard from Megan this morning about COVID response, so I'll just provide some updates about some other things that our office is working on. I've been working with the Thurston Regional Planning Council and other partners on Census 2020 outreach. Census 2020 is ongoing right now. We just had a Thurston Talk article published, I believe yesterday, that talks about why the 2020 census is important and different ways to take it. So people can go online to www.2020census.gov to take the census now, and I encourage people to do that. There will be no one going door to door, at least until May 28th. Those in-person follow-ups have been postponed due to COVID-19. And then switching gears a little bit, Commissioner Hutchins and I went down to the Olympia Farmers Market on Saturday. The farmers market is open with social distancing in mind. We'll have a program hopefully released by Friday that talks about what the farmers market is doing to support local farmers and give people access to locally sourced food with social distancing so people can stay healthy. are going to be piloting a new weekly newsletter called the Friday 5 through July. This is just gonna be 5 things that people should know about county government that week. And then based on reception, we will reassess whether that's something we want to continue. So that'll be going out through our county news listserv to the public, hopefully starting this Friday if we can get it to launch. So more to follow on that, but that concludes my updates.
That's like the Wasatch Friday 5. I like that.
Very similar, yeah.
Yeah,
Very
I like
similar.
that. I've got a few things, but let's start here. Go ahead.
My question on that would be, who determines the 5 issues?
That's gonna be me working with departments and offices. So for example, like Real ID has been, the enforcement of Real ID has been postponed until, it's been postponed 12 months. So it was gonna be enforced starting October 1st of this year. That's postponed until October 1st of 2021. I spoke with the auditor's office and they like to provide information about what that means, so that'll be included in this week's newsletter.
I take it that'll maybe include the county manager?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, I work with Megan and she's the one that approves that, so we can work with the county manager on that too.
Thank you.
Anything for Brian?
Brian, when is the end of the census? Like, when is it over?
I don't have that date off the top of my head, but I can get it for you and get back to you.
The census, they extended, we just got a notice they have extended the time, particularly related to the site visits. They have extended, I believe, a couple of months.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I tried to join you at the farmer's market Saturday, and my wife and I got there and the line was around the whole market, around the buildings, down the street, and we
Where?
Farmer's market.
Farmer's Market?
So we
Yeah.
decided to
Yeah.
move along.
Kind of an indication that people are ready to get out.
Yeah.
That was a cool bit that we did, because we got there, they opened at 10, we got there at 11, and there was a line of maybe a dozen people, easily 6 feet apart. And about 50-50, the public coming in were masked and some gloved. But all the vendors, they've gone from 70 vendors down to about 30 or so, 35, and they were gloved and masked, and you went up, you pointed to what you wanted. You pick it up, that's what I want, you pick it up, they don't touch it, it's already pre-bagged.
It's all
and-
back, okay.
And then you exchange the money, and, or if you pointed to a product, for example, Johnson's Organic Farms were there, and they had their jellies and preserves, and habanero, raspberry habanero is just to die for. But they also have, and not a plug for them, but the product, well, it is a plug for them, I guess, is a blackberry cobbler. And I asked what that tastes like, and she said, it tastes like blackberry cobbler pie. And oh my God, it really does. It's really good stuff. Got some carrots for the organic carrots for my wife's farm, the Horse Equestrian Center, and they were all happy. They, oh, who's got here? They're organic carrots, yay. And well, it was a concentrated curry soup, concentrated at base, and just add grilled or sauteed chicken, and it was awesome by Mel's. And it's all organic stuff. It's really good stuff. But there was a fair amount of people there, but they were distance apart. Only one person had to stand at a time. Hand sanitizer stations everywhere. One directional flow in and out. So people were concerned. Well, why are you going down there? You're supposed to stay in the home and not go out in public. Why you're sending the wrong message? I quite disagree. And then once they saw and read what we did, at least on my personal Facebook, they said, "No, that makes sense now. I didn't know that. We'll have to go down and get some nice organic food, support our farmers, and avoid the chain markets, you know, with everybody in the produce section touching everything." So I enjoyed that. That was fun. The Olympia, or the Thurston County Insider, the deadline for our articles is like April 24 or something like that. Coming up?
Yes, yeah, it's coming up. It's like 2 weeks from now, so April 24th sounds right.
Okay. And going back to the census, TRPC is doing, they're doing public service announcements, and they sent out us 2 scripts that are supposed to be read within 20 to 30 seconds. And so I sat on my phone and I did about 15 of these things as fast as I could, and I was still 38 seconds or 39 seconds, 33 seconds, 34 seconds. And I was as fast as I could. I just couldn't get it out.
Scripts are too long. Yeah,
They're way too
I
long.
wasn't even looking at the time. I was just trying to get it right. And by the time I got one, I was like, okay, that's not terrible. I looked at it, it was a minute 15 seconds. And I was just reading the script.
You're an attorney though.
But I took out most of it and it's still 35 seconds.
I know, it's crazy, so I'm gonna have to maybe take out a line or something, or take out my introduction.
30 seconds goes fast.
Yeah. Anyway, have you tried that yet, or?
Who's actually putting the script together?
I don't know who the individual is.
I mean, we ought to just at least let them know if they want 15 seconds.
Well, they can edit it, is what I thought, there it is.
Yeah, we
Pare
cut
it
it.
down.
Pared down, but.
Yeah. So, and I don't know when it's gonna go out, but like you said, that, you would know that, I would think, but like you said, it's a good question, when's the census over? And I think I did mine about a month ago online, and got counted. So, anything else for the PIO?
No, sir.
B-Man, you're doing a good job, thank you.
And just a parting thing, we did a couple PSAs with Mix 96.1 before the COVID outbreak and before the census, before they started sending out the invitations with Auditor Hall and Commissioner Menzer, and those are still running now, so we do have some stuff out
On the census?
On the census, yes.
Okay. Good. Same message, so COVID had nothing to do with it.
COVID wasn't part of it, it's just, why the census is important.
Thank you. Legislative update.
No.
And briefings and public hearing decisions? Nope.
Well, yeah, you do have decisions.
Oh, we have decisions to make now, yeah. So then we'll jump right into the legislative stuff. Number one, extending declaration of local emergency.
Commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners has enacting an emergency resolution, which is lapsing here in the next couple of days. It is related to the COVID-19. I brought this matter to your attention last week. I will be bringing a new resolution for your consideration to take an action today. So that is attached to your document, to your documentation. And let me walk you through the sections of your legislative action there for your consideration. It makes acknowledgement of the previous resolution that you enacted related to the emergency. Also, on section 2, declares that section 1, the county departments and offices as designated pursuant to the plan are authorized to enter into contracts and incur obligations necessary to combat such emergency to protect the health of such health and safety of persons, property, and the environment, and provide emergency assistance to the victims of such emergency consistent with the plan. What it does is allow us to go purchasing without going through the bidding process and procurement process. Also in section 3.
Is now joining the conference.
Also in section 3, as the previous resolution, authorize the county manager to make and adjust human resources policies related to the leave usage and other issues related to employee as necessitated by the impacts of COVID-19. And we have been exercised this authority in the last few weeks. Also section 4. This is a new section from the previous one, but this is in relation to the Open Public Meetings Act and some of the changes they have exercised based on the governor's waiver of some of the OPMA requirements. Section 5, this is also a new one, but makes a reference to resolution 15822, and that is related to county facilities. So we just bring all that into one. In this case, what we do is we do acknowledge the old county facilities. That includes the sheriff, there's no change, sheriff, prosecuting attorney, district court, superior court, the clerk's office, and county trails should be closed through, except for those, should be closed through May 15th. The May 15th, that is given as a window in the event the governor extends the stay-at-home order. And also section 6. Also, this emergency ends at midnight on May 31st, 2020, so it gives a little more time in case you need to exercise legislative action. So section 7 outlines that in the event the stay-at-home order does not go beyond May 4th, then opening the county facilities, we just enact on those without you taking an affirmative action. And that is the clause of section 7.
Okay, I've got one question, but your question?
I'm thinking about the last piece there. If the governor's stay-at-home order doesn't extend past May 4th, then this provision would automatically reopen county facilities?
Because on section 5, we said county facilities will be closed except for the one I listed until May 15th. It's just to give us a window. But if the stay-at-home order doesn't go beyond May 4th, then we open the county facilities May 5th.
Go ahead, Gary. Is that it?
When does our prior designation expire?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. And I guess my concern is, we don't know what the governor's gonna do yet,
Or when?
but why do we wanna go for a month and a half, is it? Why do we need to do that? I'm not so sure that sends the right message, especially if we're gonna rescind it, if the governor says May 4th is the day. So I just wonder how come we're not just extending it, a couple weeks maybe, versus 6 weeks.
Well, it sounds to me like if we go ahead and do it for a couple weeks, and then we have to do it again for a couple weeks, and then we do it again for a couple weeks, depending on what the governor does, we keep reacting. This is in my mind. But if we go to the end of May, then if the governor's order does not extend beyond that, it goes away. We don't have to rescind it, it just dies.
Could I just follow up on that comment? What about though if the governor gives a modified extension, if you will, and maybe our stuff doesn't cover for that modification, that's all.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think that, why do we need to do it for 6 weeks? Why not do it for 2 weeks?
Okay.
That's all.
Well, I just thought that the stay-at-home order was just one piece. I mean, we had our emergency declaration before there even was a stay-at-home order because we wanted to have the flexibility to do these things, and I'm pretty comfortable thinking that we're gonna need that till the end of May at a minimum.
That's right.
So
Thank you. It's two different things. The governor also declared a state of emergency statewide, which goes beyond May 4th.
Okay.
So in this thing, the resolution does two things. The emergency declaration that you may consider extended to May 31st allows the flexibility to continue to respond to this emergency. The other item is related to county facilities.
Okay, good enough explanation.
Did you have something to add, Robin?
No, just exactly what Romero said. We'll be responding to this emergency after the stay-at-home order.
Probably
So
until
we need-
December.
Yeah, and
Right, we
the
need
way
to
may
put
be,
some flexibilities in place.
before May 31st, we may want to come back and ask you to extend.
Okay.
Right, and in fact, the governor's executive order yesterday goes through June 12th.
The emergency declaration, yeah.
So
Okay.
can I make a motion?
Well, before you do that, I want to ask about section 1. At the end of section 1, it says, stated the governor's proclamation issued through April 13th. That was his proclamation through April 13th?
Yeah, and he extended it.
And he extended, okay, thank you. I was getting to the now therefore, and I thought, well, wait a minute, that's old news. Okay, thank you. Motion, yeah.
I move to approve a resolution extending local emergency declaration related to the COVID-19 pandemic through May 31st, 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to extend the declaration of a local emergency. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Number 2, approval of the local agency agreement for the Case Road fish barrier removal.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 2 and 3 are related. The first one is for you to consider authorizing the Director of Public Works to sign the local agency agreement to secure $500,000 in federal funding for the construction of a fish barrier project located on the Case Road, along Case Road. When you discussed this item last week, it was really the intended of how the REIT dollars that you have allocated for the fish barrier removals. It was two elements: to continue to fund this program, but also I believe Commissioner Baird was key on said how we can utilize that as a seed money to get other grant funding, and this is an example of that. And again, this is a step that we need to go through just to secure the $500,000 from the federal government for the construction of this project.
Questions?
Go ahead.
If we obligate $500,000 and something happens, because we're hearing about financial problems coming up, would have an opt-out on this, and we'd have to give the money back probably, though, right?
Right, and,
But-
and, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanna make sure that we're not obligating our money with no get-out clause.
We do have, and I believe Robin answered that question.
Yeah, yes, she did about our expenditure, but I'm worried about, are we gonna be obligated past that because we're accepting this 500? I wanna accept it, don't get me wrong, I wanna get the money, I wanna do the job, but I don't wanna be locked in. If by saying, yes, we want this 500,000, now we're gonna have to put $1 million out, no consideration of the virus issue or anything.
No, there is an opportunity for.
We have an opt-out clause in there.
Opt-out, and also, and everything works on a reimbursable basis.
Okay.
And before we issue the contract, which the next item is for you to authorize going out to bid,
Yes,
then we'll have to assess at that point.
okay,
But I believe it's the balance.
Okay.
In terms of, this obviously contribute to the recovery of the economy in a way. And if we had the federal government providing funding for this construction, my recommend is for you consider just to move forward on this.
yes, sir.
Do you have any questions or comments on this?
No.
Okay, ready for a motion?
I move to approve local agency agreement requesting obligation of $500,000 in federal money for construction funding for the Case Road Fish Barrier Removal Project, CRP number 63007, and authorize the Director of Public Works to sign the local agenda agreement and any supplement needed to expend the money granted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the local agency agreement for Case Road Fish Barrier Removal. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye, that motion carries unanimously for people on the phone. And number 3, resolution for sealed bids for the project.
And it's the same as just authorization to go out to bid.
Okay, questions, comments?
No, sir.
Anything? Okay.
Move to approve resolution to call for sealed bids and authorize the county engineer to set the bid date and time for receipt and opening of said bids for the replacement of Beaver Creek tributary culvert for fish passage enhancement for Thurston County Public Works, Case Road Fish Barrier Removal, CRP number 63007.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to call for sealed bids for the Case Road Fish Barrier Removal. Any further discussion on that
No, sir.
topic? No, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye, that motion carries unanimously as well. Number 4, amendment of roof CIP Kids Place contract.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, Commissioner. As a matter of background, back in June 20, 2017, the Board of County Commissioners approved a 3-year community investment partnership, also known as a CIP grant, to the Rochester Organization of Families, also known as ROOF. And the main objective for this grant funding was to provide assistance to school-related programs. And since we're in the last year, and considering the schools are closed, and we have a remaining of $26,325. This particular request is to amend the current contract to allow ROOF to be a lot more flexible as to how they can utilize the funding to fund other programs and operational needs, including the food bank, and also emergency services programs. And that's really, as I believe, the CIP was part of this conversation, or now the HHAC.
Now the HHS.
And I believe there is, has an endorsement by that group as well.
Yeah, we've been providing that flexibility with some of the grant money, so people, organizations can adjust.
And this grant money is not in the state of federal money, it's just local money that provides the flexibility.
Questions or comments?
No, we discussed this last week. I trust Roof to put that money where it's needed.
Yep, anything?
No, sir.
All right, okay, here we go.
Move to authorize the Director of Public Health and Social Services to amend the Community Investment Partnership Contract with Rochester Organization of Families, Kids Place After School and Summer Program, to change the purpose of the grant to allow Roof to fund any essential programs or operational needs as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the roof CIP Kids Place contract. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimously passes. Number 5, CPED Permit Extension Ordinance.
You have also reviewed this item in a couple of occasions, Commissioners, and this is related to the request from the Olympia Master Builders Association as to how you can consider extending some of the deadlines of the permit applications that we're going to have going on. And this is really related to the COVID-19 emergency as well. Considering no construction is going on, it will be impossible for those individuals to have a permit to exercise that construction if it's not allowed. So extending those permits, I believe is a good thing for you to consider. The Olympia Master Builders Association asked to extend those permits to July 31st. And the staff, in a couple of occasions mentioned to you, this ordinance extend those permits through September 30, 2020. Also, I believe last week you considered why not extend it to the end of December. I believe that was Commissioner Edwards' suggestion. And that can probably be taken another step if that is the case, depending on how this recovery of the emergency goes on. So that's for your final consideration and approval.
Okay, questions, comments?
I guess I would just make a comment. I still think I want to commend the CPED folks for adding 60 days to this request from the Olympia Master Builders, but just so we don't have to mess with it again, I'd like to extend it till the end of the year, but I'm willing to go ahead with this and then go through it again if we need to.
Okay, question or comments?
No.
I also commend OMB for proffering this and CPED for working with them as well to make it I think, a pretty cool piece of legislation. So I'm ready for a motion.
I move to approve an ordinance extending the permit deadlines of building and land use applications received by Community Planning and Economic Development to September 30, 2020.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for the CPED permit extension ordinance for economic security and relief during COVID-19 emergency. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously. Number 6, waive Thurston County procurement policy requirements.
This particular requirement, as you, is for you to consider waiving the procurement requirements, and this is related to the Hearts Strides Ranch, which provides equine assisted peer support programs to the civil and offender juveniles and caseload with juvenile court. The program is funded by the Thurston County Treatment Sales Tax, and the uniqueness of this is provides a key relationship between the contractor in this case, the juvenile staff, as well as the individuals involved within this program. And going out to bid in order to receive other individuals that can provide those services become a little bit tasking, because it's a well-funded program. It has been proven to be extremely successful in providing those services, and the recommendations for you to consider waive the procurement requirements. In this particular contract, again, is funded by TST, is for $53,120. It goes from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 is per year.
And I might add, the Christie D's that facilitates this program and has for a number of years, it has expanded to include disabled veterans. And last month, when I watched a disabled veteran working with a horse, and it would just give you goosebumps to see the way he looks into that horse's eye, the big giant eyes, and just see that connection was just powerful. Very, very cool. Commissioner Edwards, yes, sir.
This is for the county manager. Did the treatment sales tax committee make this recommendation?
I believe Harry Kennan has been involved in this, and she's fully supportive of this action.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Nope, it's a good program, and I'm sure there's some young people with relationships with the horses, and I've been out there myself.
Traumatized kids and whatnot? Oh my goodness, yeah. You have been out there?
I have been out there.
Oh, good.
It's been a number of years, actually.
Did you have anything to add?
Just that this used to be part of the community programs that were part of the treatment sales tax appropriation. And it makes more sense to have it go through the juvenile court. So this action is completely supported in this fashion.
And it goes retro to January 1.
I don't have an answer for why the contract's coming to you so late,
I was
but
wondering if it was like just a cleanup or something that we're doing. No answer? We don't know.
It's just probably the delay. It's a delay.
Okay.
I really don't have an explanation.
But it'll be done now if it passes.
So I really don't have an explanation other than excuse. Sorry.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna move to waive the requirements of Thurston County procurement policy under item A9 and to approve the contract with Heart Strides Therapeutic Riding and Horsemanship of Olympia in the amount of $53,120 for the period of January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, and authorize the juvenile court administrator to execute the contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to waive Thurston County procurement policy requirements and approve the contract with Heart Strides Ranch Equine Assisted Peer Support Program. Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Passes unanimously. Number 7, approval of an MOU with the Nisqually Tribe.
Yeah, this is an item that you reviewed a couple, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, and you were considering having a memorandum of understanding MOU with the Nisqually Tribe for them to install fiber optic lines within the county's right of way. I presented to you with a proposed MOU. At that point, Commissioner Edwards suggested that they would like to see some indemnification as well as some waiver sovereignty language on the agreement that has been included. It's included in the copy that you have. It's also been signed by the attorney from the Nisqually Tribe as well as the chair of the Nisqually Tribe. And also they have already outlined formally they support this memo by this attachment before you. So unless you have any questions, I will suggest for you to consider approving.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
Again, I wanna approve this and get it done, but I don't see that anybody from our legal staff has reviewed this and signed off on it. And that's, just a matter of a technicality, I'm sure, but I think we ought to be doing things kind of the way we should be doing.
So before you sign, the attorney will be signing.
Okay.
So and that then, yeah. Karen has reviewed this. In fact, 2 attorneys have reviewed this.
Okay, good enough.
But certainly, this will be, it will be signed by your attorney before you sign it.
We're just making the formal motion
Yes,
now.
sir.
Okay.
Okay, that answers my question. I hope it all works. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I move to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Nisqually Tribe for emergency installation of a fiber optic line within the county's rights of way.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve a memorandum of understanding with the Nisqually Tribe for fiber optic lines. Any further discussion on that topic?
No, sir.
Nope. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And that takes care of the legislative pieces. Now we're moving into commissioner items. And number 1, the Salvation Army we already discussed.
You already discussed that.
And then letter to the governor with cities.
This is, going back to the item Commissioner Edwards was discussing early in the meeting today. And this particular item, the cities are jointly going to be sending a letter to the governor. They have asked the county whether they'd like to participate on this letter. And this letter, in so many different words, states that the governor should reconsider having the housing construction to be considered as a essential business. As Commissioner Edwards stated, there's a lot of jurisdiction, at least that I know. Mason County has submitted a letter, as well as Spokane County has submitted a letter. And there's a lot of interest, at least from the building community, for you to consider joining this effort with the cities that would be Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater. I'm not sure if Yelm is part of this or not.
Okay, anything? Questions or comments?
You said the cities are we're joining a letter with the cities?
Yeah.
That's the point?
That's the point.
That's what this is.
I don't have an objection to that.
I'm very much in favor of it.
So at that point, it will be the chair who will sign the joint letter.
Okay. So thumbs up? On the letter?
Can you exercise the thumbs up then?
Yeah, all three have thumbs up. Is that what you want? What do you need?
Okay.
Okay.
We all agree that we ought to write a letter to the governor.
Join that, okay, you agree?
Yeah, they have.
If they join with the cities.
As an essential
The
function.
state of California included that, and when the Washington's order came out, it did not.
Yeah.
Despite the memo and legal analysis we got, which I didn't think was the agreement, but I see that, but that was just based on the way the Washington order was worded. I wasn't trying to say that it shouldn't be included potentially. I think that people can appropriately social distance and housing is obviously critical. So if the governor wants to adjust his order to conform to, say, California's order, I don't think there'd be, that's up for him and I would not oppose that.
Well, he and California and Oregon are working together on.
Is Oregon the same?
Restart. I don't know if they're the same on that, but they're working together to restart, a plan for restarting the economy. Absent what other states or the federal government.
So we're probably gonna be aligned pretty soon here, one way or the other.
Yeah.
I guess my comment would be that if the governor doesn't reconsider, I would like to hear from legal if we have the authority to adjust that order that the governor gave out or give something contrary to that or a different interpretation. So, and where that would fit in the schedule, I would hope by next week we would certainly know, but.
I won't be able to say when the governor will provide an answer.
Well,
to
no,
this,
but I mean, if he doesn't, if he says no, well, then that's the governor's prerogative. But I would like to review and see if we have the legal authority to allow that business activity to get back to work. I believe, boy, if we can have the marijuana shops open and that's an essential business and people are standing around there, I really think we can have our workers that are doing proper distancing and maintaining all of the other issues that are laid out by our health department.
I will start exploring this option with.
Thank you.
So is this the letter that or is this just is this the letter that would go out or is this a framework?
That's the framework. But if you have any comments specific to.
Who drafted this?
Jay Burney from.
Jay Burney, okay.
Okay, so this is along the lines of what City of Olympia proposes?
And do we have a kind of a time frame as when that would go?
And in fact, I just got an email from Jay Burney asking the status, so I will respond. The board has agreed to participate on this and they can prepare a letter for your signature.
So you can send them a little 3 thumbs ups?
Sure.
Thumbs up?
I can find an emoji of.
Did you need some more though,
No.
official or?
No, I think I got it. Okay, I'm just concerned that when thumbs up may not materialize, as to those individuals who join.
The people on the phone, that we all concur that a letter should be going out to the governor then?
Thank you.
Okay. That takes care of that. Number 3, commissioner items is the RCO grant for City of Olympia.
Yeah, this is, as you may recall, every time that a jurisdiction or any optic is planned, is submitted an application for RCO grants. They have an obligation to inform all the parties involved. In this case, will be the county. And you have seen some of the RCO grants when down in South County, what the Fish and Wildlife trying to get secure some property for preservation. In this particular case, I believe all of you receive individually this letter, and this is just a matter of let the county know what the plans the City of Olympia has. So attached for you on this is a map. The City of Olympia purchased the Spooner's Farm located in Yelm Highway. And they're still operating the Spooner's Farms for the next year or so. But the City of Olympia has plans to build a metro park, I believe, in this location. So they are planning to submit a request for a grant through the RCO to recuperate some of the costs related to purchasing of this land. The City of Olympia already owns the property. In this RCO grant, they only want to recover some of the costs related to the purchase. I don't believe it is an action for you to take on this, but I'd like to bring this to your attention just to make sure that you have seen it.
Yes, sir. Do you have anything?
This is in the unincorporated area of Thurston County, is this right?
Yes, sir.
Is it within the UGA of
Yes, sir.
Thurston County? I would like to see, because this is some kind of prairie property, I'd like to see if there couldn't be some mitigation for the pocket gopher associated with this property and utilizing it. I don't know, part of it can be a pocket gopher park, I guess, if we were to get some benefit from it, because the taxpayers are ultimately the people that are paying the bill here, and I would like to see that the taxpayers get a little broader benefit than it just being a park. I'd like to see some mitigation that comes along with this, and how we would develop that. I do not have a plan for that, but I would like to see staff look into what it might take to see if we could not develop mitigation for the pocket gopher.
I don't have an answer to that. However, from what I understand, I'm not a biologist, but what I understand is that is prime soil, and they have gophers down there, pocket gophers. But all the City of Olympia, if they have to deal with that issue, they'll have to deal with that in the appropriate fashion. I don't know what that would be.
They will have to mitigate for the impacts.
They will have to mitigate, so, but they're just fulfilling their obligation of conferring with us, right? We don't say yes or no, they're just conferring, they're letting us know. But they're giving us a disc golf course, that's part of the plan for a park that would be closed for play.
Okay, again, I realize they're just notifying us, there's no requirement that we concur with everything they do. But I would like to write a letter to the RCO folks that are gonna make this grant, that this be considered as some type of mitigation for the taxpayers in general that are saddled with this poorly thought out gopher process that is inhibiting growth in unincorporated Thurston County. And this is located in unincorporated Thurston County.
Okay, anything?
And I don't know if that would take a motion on my part to,
Yeah, I will, because what you're requesting is send a letter to put a condition.
yep,
And whether you like to have that condition put in place is really, I'd like to have direction from the board.
The condition that we would put on Olympia.
No.
And on who?
the state. The state is gonna use taxpayers' money to assist in the acquisition and development of this park.
The acquisition is ready.
Okay, the acquisition has already happened. The development of this park, taxpayers are gonna be
No,
paying
what
this.
the City of Olympia is asking the purpose of this grant is City of Olympia is trying to recuperate some of the acquisition costs.
Okay,
So,
what,
it's akin to assisting in the acquisition of the
Yeah.
park. So
Yeah.
I'm following you.
so, all I'm asking for is that as part of the granting of that funding, if you will, to cover part of that acquisition cost, I would like to make sure that the taxpayers of Thurston County, because we've all paid into this fund, that we, Thurston County residents, get a mitigation benefit for the pocket gopher. And the pocket gopher has been holding up economic development in this community since about 2013, I believe. So for about 7 years, this has been holding us back. Tax money is about to be expended to do something with this property that has proper soil and apparently does have pocket gophers on it. So let's set aside an area for pocket gophers, and then the total taxpayers throughout Thurston County will receive some benefit. Every time there's an expenditure that can be benefited towards offsetting the Mazama pocket gopher, I think we should explore that and see if we can't get a benefit for the taxpayers in Thurston County.
So conceptually, I agree with that. The legality of it, however, is if this is an agreement or a contract, whatever, between Olympia and the city of Olympia and the state to, for the RCO money to transact, I'm not sure we can condition it, but I'm guessing we could say, well, we would like it if, but they don't have to agree with that. They say, oh, that's nice, thank you for your input, and still make the deal between the city of Olympia and the RCO, or the state with the RCO funding. So I don't know if we can actually, the legal word condition it, and we don't have to support this either.
Well, you condition your support.
But I agree with what Hutch's saying, and I think that the other piece is, wouldn't RCO just say, we don't deal with me, that's U.S. Fish and Wildlife grants mitigation credit, what does this mean to us? People at RCO would just probably disregard the letter because that's not what they do.
But the RCO does put conditions on the grants.
And they could
They
put a
grant-
condition, say you can't get this money unless you apply to U.S. Fish and Wildlife and get granted X number of mitigation credits for pocket gopher? That seems really
It might be a stretch, but
that's a stretch.
they
I think
do
that's a
put
big stretch.
conditions on their grants, so,
Okay.
I mean, to
I
ask
just
for a
feel
condition-
that we as a board, in my estimation anyway, are obligated to do what we can do for the taxpayers to offset the problems that the mitigation has caused us since about 2013, or for the last 7 years. We've not got the problem fixed, but why not have a set aside of gopher habitat? They can have a little gopher park with trails through
Well,
it.
that's not the issue. The issue is, can we legally, do we condition it
Well,
or recommend? No, I don't have against you, but what you're saying, yes, I agree. But how do we legally do that?
Well, I don't know
Plus
if
it's-
we legally can.
Plus, it's an issue of, I think it is an issue, because I don't know what Olympia's plan for this park is. It may be that what they've got designed is gonna disrupt every piece of this property, and they're gonna have to pay for their own mitigation to be able to do that. Commissioner Edwards is proposing that, that they not be, if that were their plan, they not be allowed to do that. They have to set aside a gopher reserve portion so that we could be credited in some way versus what they're gonna disrupt through the park activity. And I don't know what the vision is for this park, but they're gonna have to deal with,
I know disc
Since
golf
I
courses
live
involved.
nearby, I know their plans, it is a big plan, I mean, so.
soccer fields and whatnot, right?
Soccer fields, dog parks, parking lots, so the disturbance of the soils is gonna be there. And they have to deal with whatever mitigation they need to do as related to their impact. It is not intended to have this and be in a natural state. That's not their plan.
Right, and they don't get to bypass being a municipality. No government could bypass the gopher review.
Right.
So whatever they will be, and that's what I'm trying to bring up in the beginning, was whatever they are mandated to mitigate for, what we're suggesting is, well, we want to use that mitigation site too, or.
I just want the taxpayers to get a benefit
Right.
from the Mazama pocket gopher mitigation issue. I don't know that we can legally mandate anything. I just would like to send a letter to RCO saying, we're not opposed to anything going on in this park, but if at all possible, we would like to see some mitigation benefit be received by the Thurston County taxpayers that are yet being impacted by the Mazama pocket gopher for the past 7 years. something as simple as that. At least let them know that there's a issue there. It's not been resolved yet. And we're still looking, for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife folks to kind of, get out of this bureaucratic process of the last 5 years of trying to get an HCP together. All I'm trying to do is get a benefit for the citizens of the county. However that could be, I don't know. I'd like to write a letter to the RCO folks and let them know of our concern. That's all.
And I'm okay with that letter. You okay with the letter going to RCO suggesting, I'm not even sure what the wording would look like.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the wording here, but
Just, hey, we're not opposing this,
CPED can
but we'd like
put
to have
something together.
mitigation considered. I'm sure it's gonna be considered.
Well,
Just by
and
the
that's
nature of
what
the
if-
beast.
If the board wants me to write a letter for your consideration, what is the ask? Is the ask, as Commissioner Mensah states, that what you asking is out of this investment from RCO, the city of Olympia has to set aside mitigation in this area for pocket golfer, perhaps the county and the citizens of the county can benefit from it. I guess that's what I'm asking, what would be the specific that you would like for me to add in this letter?
As far as I know, sitting here today, their park is gonna disrupt this entire thing. And that's usually what you're advocating for, is development within the, letting projects go forward, development within the county. So I'm assuming they're gonna develop this whole park, and then they're gonna have to deal with U.S. Fish and Wildlife themselves. I'm not seeing the angle by which we benefit somehow here. Unless we put handcuffs on Olympia's plan and say, you're gonna have to set aside, some chunk and give us credit, not yourselves, but us credit, and that doesn't seem appropriate they're the property owner here, and they've got a park that's been in plan for a long time, and I don't see that angle.
That's what I'm concerned. I'm not sure we can impose that. All they have to do is confer with us. But I'm very much in favor of sending a letter to the RCO saying, we just want to ensure that the pocket gopher land is, and the city of Olympia is adhering to whatever mitigation they need to adhere to. I don't want 100% of the map to be developed. Because like you say, it's a major disruption.
So I'm hearing two different things on this letter. And for the middle of I believe it's different. Commissioner Edwards is suggesting to send a letter to make sure that whatever investment the RCO puts in this property, they set aside whatever that is for pocket gopher mitigation. But what are you stating, Commissioner? You said send a letter stating perhaps the obvious, they need to mitigate for pocket gopher.
And that's the obvious. 'Cause I'm not sure we can obligate Olympia to set aside and that we benefit from it.
So I can drop whatever letter the board wants me to drop,
Yes.
I just need some direction.
Yeah.
I don't think we're asking in this letter, in my estimation, or trying to tell Olympia what they have to do. The pocket gopher issue is still an issue that we're dealing with. There are probably about 50,000 acres already set aside for the pocket gopher in Thurston County. That's not designated purely for the pocket gopher, it's parts of different prairie issues. All the open space areas that we've got set aside through many different processes, whether it's parks or reserves, military installation, areas that are never going to be developed. They're always going to be open. All I'm asking is that we get some credit to add some of this property to the mitigation benefit, because taxpayers' money is going to be spent on this. I would be advocating, everything we've done, whether it's awarding money for a group to make an acquisition, I've always been asking that we get some mitigation benefit towards the pocket gopher, because that problem it's not went away yet, it's not been solved, we don't have an HCP. All I'm asking is anytime taxpayer money is spent, that we get some mitigation benefit. And What that is, I don't know. Let RCO make a determination if they want. I'm not trying to tell Olympia what to do. I'm not even trying to tell RCO what to do. I'm suggesting that they look at this and see what kind of a benefit could be obtained from this taxpayer expenditure for the taxpayers. That's all I'm looking for.
Here's some direction perhaps. The deadline for Olympia, this must be complete prior to July 13. So we have some breathing room. It's April, 14. And it says here that whatever letter is sent, any letters received will be made available to the governor and the state legislature, which is good to hear. But also that it says, the bottom of the letter, enclosed is the application project description, location map, and a parcel map. And all we have is like a parcel map. We don't have the project description.
I
understand that.
I
If
can
we have-
probably give you the rest of it. It is on your email.
Okay, but if we had perhaps a discussion on, if we had that right now, which while we're looking at it, that would answer one of your questions, if, are they 100% gonna be developed or not? I don't know. And what their expectation is for mitigation. Jay Burney might have that information, I don't know. Just might be give us some more information a long time prior to July 13.
So you are, so let me see if I understand. You asking for additional information before you consider the letter, or you want me to draft a letter?
I'm looking for more information prior to drafting a letter, because I may not be in support of drafting a letter
And I agree with that.
until I.
So I'll bring the whole application next week for your consideration and review. I don't think Jay Burney is gonna be able to, and say Jay because he's the interim city manager, to give you a perspective as to what the mitigation will be.
Well, no, not what it will be, but that their expectation, yeah, we know we have to go through this. Because Olympia, they don't have an HCP, and so they're operating in the county, in the UGA. What's their plan? What's their expectation? And I'd just like to know what their expectation is. It might be, we don't have to. It might be, wow, we're concerned about it. I don't know what their thoughts are.
Look, well, go ahead, sir.
I was just gonna say, they're gonna have to wrangle with it like any property owner, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, if this were owned by a private company and they wanted to put barns and do a horse track or something, they'd have to probably set aside a chunk of this at minimum, if not pay into our, bank. I mean, hopefully we'll have an HCP approved by the time this project goes forward.
My guess is probably they wouldn't move forward until the county has an HCP.
Yeah, and then they're gonna have to pay, so I mean, they're gonna want every bit of, just like any property owner would, private company or individual, they're gonna want every bit of mitigation they can squeeze out of this property to justify their take of the soccer fields and the running tracks and everything, so.
As you know, the path, the city of Olympia may have, as well as any property owner, absent us having an HCP for them to allow to develop whatever credit that is, they can go on their own and develop their own HCP on their property, and you know how complicated that process is.
As well as they said, I'm sorry, here, I'll get right to you. Olympia has said in the past that they're not ready to develop this. It's not gonna happen right around the corner because they don't even have the proper staff to take care of the property yet. Thought you might chuckle out of that. They don't have enough park staff. So I'm not sure what their expectation is, 2025, 2023. But we have to get through the COVID and get through restarting the economy again before they even consider developing a park. So I'm not sure what their expectation is for development, how many years down the road. So I don't want to send a letter just yet. I want to get more information from Jay. Kind of hunches, okay, gut feelings. But also I'll look at it's in my email, I'll look at the project description. I think I saw disc golf in there.
So I will bring all the documentation for you maybe next week.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And disc golf is a good thing. That's cool fun. Anything further? Oh, yeah, you did, interrupted, go ahead.
I'm just gonna use as an example, we've been held up from modifying an intersection at Stillicum and Marvin for 5 years now because there's a pocket gopher program. There's a school there, for heaven's sakes. And the government does not seem to care if kids get run over or not in that intersection. It's more important to deal with this gopher. I'm just obviously frustrated that type of thing has even taken place. And in this instance, I'm trying to get some benefit for the taxpayers in general. If it's not gonna be developed for 10 years, well, let's use it for a gopher habitat area for 10 years till we figure something out. I don't know. I'm just saying, let's not forget about the problem we have, because the taxpayers are being asked to put money into this acquisition process. And if the taxpayers are gonna get a benefit, let's see if it can be about Mazama pocket gophers, because it's got the soil, it's got the critters. Let's see if we can do something with it. That's all I'm asking.
And I know, I understand the example you share about the silicon. And if the city of Olympia tomorrow submitted their plans and stuff, they'd be mired in the same process for quite some time.
Probably.
So, yeah, enough?
Yeah, I'll bring this item again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. EDC letter to the federal delegation attached.
Yeah, we received a suggestion from the EDC for you to consider writing this letter to the federal delegation. And what it does is really outlines some of the strategies the EDC as well as the chambers are doing in terms of the small business recovery as a result of COVID-19. And this letter, I'm not expecting you to read right now nor to approve this letter right now, but in concept is asking for the federal delegation, the federal government, to start looking as to how they can start supporting more direct the EDCs and the chambers as a way to start helping the small businesses. And again, this is just introducing the subject for you today. Please don't feel that you have to sign it today, no. Please review it, let me know if you have any comments, and then we'll finalize that for your final consideration. But that's the gist of it. And Jenica Machado is the one who has been coordinating with the partners in the region, and this is a result of that coordination.
I'm good with it.
Okay,
Looks fine to me.
yeah, it looks fine to me too, but I'll review.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have any comments on the language, let me know.
I'll get back to you. Thank you. That takes us to the Amtrak letter, right on time, Amtrak. Can you frame that for us?
Yeah, I don't know what this is.
I'm not sure what it is. I don't want to go down the wrong
This is an
track.
item, that I had a request from Robin Court, and I believe Commissioner Edwards wanted to have this item.
Ha
Has left the conference.
Robin Court
Oh,
said,
no.
Commissioner Edwards would like to have this item.
Robert Court
discussion.
signing off.
By any chance, is it about the security cameras that they've been asking for many years?
No.
Well, then,
How about, okay, so you're not ready, how about?
Postpone for next week.
Yeah.
Let's postpone it for next
Yep.
week.
well,
Sorry
yeah,
if
that's
I
that's
didn't mean
fine,
to-
because that's
I didn't
catching
mean
me
to
off
surprise you.
guard a little
This
bit.
topic's been delayed.
We're
That's
working
fine.
under unusual conditions, I would say, so.
And I understand there's a lot of stuff going on.
I am not up on the reference being made.
That takes us to public testimony.
I don't have any. Well, you have received a couple letters from Mr. Pettit, and it's related to the docketing process. And within those letters, obviously, Mr. Pettit provides some suggestions as to how you probably exercise your decision-making process related to the docketing process, but also he highlights some legal aspects of that, and those will be addressed tomorrow morning under an executive session. So tomorrow you have a 2-hour briefing related to the docketing process. The first 30 minutes will be an executive session in which your legal counsel will be in the position to answer some of the legal highlights that Mr. Pettit has brought to your attention. The rest of the letter is up for your consideration. I'm not here to provide any perspective, and it's up to you how you want to manage that.
Any questions or comments on that? Nope. Okay. Then next is number 7, is commissioner items, and I know we have number 8, we're ending with a Board of Health executive session that I would reckon is gonna take every bit of 30 minutes. I'm just speculating, any idea?
Oh, I did have the item related to the Amtrak.
You do?
Back to train
Well,
out.
let's go ahead, back it up. and do it.
So Robin Court says that as a result of the White House briefing that you participated last week, she stated the Commissioner Gerbers would like to consider a letter to the state and federal transportation secretaries asking if Amtrak riders could be given reduced fares to encourage ridership, given the federal funding. that will be
Okay,
made
I know what it's about
to
now.
help support their
Yeah,
services.
when the
Okay.
transportation secretary made comments about funding Amtrak to keep it going, this is at one of, if you wanna call it a webinar, what was it?
As a White House briefing.
It was a White House briefing, I don't know how many of you were involved in this, but one of the items was that they were gonna fund Amtrak just to keep it up and going. And I thought, well, if they're gonna use public money to keep it up and going, and I suppose public money is always involved, but if they're gonna enhance that budget, maybe they could expand the service with that enhanced budget, instead of running empty trains up and down the tracks. Let's make sure that people can go to Portland and Seattle, or wherever they're going that Amtrak serves, at maybe a reduced rate to, I don't know, offset the carbon footprint, I guess, if you will. Why not get a benefit for our citizens if that's what they plan on doing? Is if they're gonna give money, let's see if we can get enhanced service at a reduced cost to the taxpayers. That's what I'm looking for.
As long as it's an essential trip.
Well, don't worry, it's probably gonna go on for quite a while. Hopefully, we're gonna come out of this before long, and people will be going to work. Maybe there's a way that we can utilize Amtrak in a more efficient measure than it's been, because to me, it hasn't been very efficient.
And I don't know, 'cause I have no idea what their budgets look like.
And as I recall that conversation last Wednesday, you're correct. The $2.2 trillion package includes a bridge for Amtrak not to become insolvent. That's really the key, is because of the ridership has dropped so much
Right.
related to this emergency.
Right.
They really don't have any revenues to continue on. I mean, this is a bridge to continue them to be.
And if we're gonna fund that bridge with tax dollars, why shouldn't the taxpayers get some benefit if they can? That's my argument.
Same with the airlines.
Yeah, I
They
suppose.
get a handout.
I don't know what I don't know what we're all getting, but the idea of having more people utilizing a public transportation, I thought was the goal. If you think of growth management, I think that's what the goal is. So why not try to capitalize on that? I just wanted to bring that in front of the board to see if they were interested in proposing to the Secretary of Transportation, maybe at the state level, we could write them a letter, and, because there must be coordination between the state and the feds. And maybe we could get some benefit for potential riders that would take advantage of this. Just to keep cars off the road.
Thoughts?
So, I mean, sounds like you're talking about kind of long-term, not like after we're out of this stay-home order.
Yeah, after we're out of the stay-home order for sure, but the funding is gonna continue for quite some time.
So
I
a
would
continued funding stream if it's phrased in terms of targeted at strategies and designed to increase ridership, I'm all for, greater use of public transportation. Specifically whether that means reduced fares, if we're trying to keep the railroad solvent, I don't know if I just don't know their finances well enough to make that specific suggestion, but if you wanted it to be conceptual, I could probably be behind that to say, look, use this money in a way that's gonna not only support the railroad's solvency, but also have the collateral benefit of increasing ridership and keeping it more,
That's what I'm looking for.
So, is that something the board would like to pursue a letter?
I would say yes, especially conceptually and theoretically. The only thing I don't want to do is burden you or someone else with more.
No, what I was gonna suggest is maybe Robin can start capturing your
There you
thoughts. Put something in, and I will
Take a look at
probably
it.
build that.
That's fine.
Yeah, I just don't want you going off on, or someone going off on a research
I
project.
just think-
A research project, what's the funding look like? What are we suggesting fare-wise? And so conceptually, yeah.
I will ask Robin to help, because,
Go ahead, Gary.
quite some time.
That's it. I was just looking to take advantage of a bad situation. This whole thing is a bad situation. And if we can get some benefit out of it for our residents here in Thurston County to be able to take a ride Boeing or wherever it goes by, let's do it.
I think the government, in just taking that concept, I think the federal government should be throwing tons of money into building housing. It kills basically 3 birds with 1 stone in terms of getting money into the economy, getting people working, creating the housing, addressing the housing shortage, just down the line. It really would be a great way to use a stimulus for COVID-19.
And along the same lines, my humble perspective, I think the federal government should invest in rebuilding the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because our infrastructure is aging, from roads, from water
Bridges.
lines, sewer lines, bridges.
Yep.
And if there's any in the stimulus package, they actually has long-term benefits to our country and our society and our jobs, is infrastructure.
Well said. And we need more rumble strips.
No, you don't need more rumble
Thank you
strips.
for that, Commissioner.
Thank you, Gary, for bringing that up about Amtrak. And so I would like to dispense with the commissioner items and get into the BOH executive session, because that could be
Yes,
considerable.
Debbie Watson is here, and I believe Maria's gonna join us via Zoom meeting.
Yes.
So let me
Okay.
get that Zoom meeting first.
We can have a Zoom executive session?
Yeah, because we only have one and a specific invitation for that.
All right, so that
And Shelley
concludes
can be
today's
part of that.
work session. So thank you for joining us.
So
We'll see you next time.
let me set up the executive session. You may want to announce that.
Yeah,
there
so
we go.
at this point, it's 11:58, and we're gonna be back into Board of Health executive session pursuant to RCW 42301101G. This is to evaluate qualifications of an applicant for public employment, specifically the health officer applicants. Commissioners' action may follow. We're anticipating 30 minutes. 30 minutes for this executive session.
Is there anyone on the phone, Romero? Do we need to?
That might have one, sure.
We're all done.